Good morning, America. This is Scott in the Shot. Scott the Great coming at you again this morning. Had some more thoughts I want to talk about. I want to talk about diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion is a good thing, but it's not a good thing. I don't think when people are getting. It's not. It's not that I think. I know it's not a good thing when people start getting hired because of their color or their race. You know, let's talk about Kamala Harris. I'm pretty sure she was a DEI candidate back in the day. For diversity and inclusion. I'll tell you why. Because every time she ever came on TV that I've ever seen, I mean, I don't care that she's a prosecutor in California. Obviously, she didn't do a very good job. I mean, the transnational gangs are still here. They can't name one transnational gang that she ever. I mean, that she ever prosecuted. Maybe a couple members, but not a gang. But here's what's up. Every time I've ever seen her talk on TV, all she does is cackle, laugh, and she never really takes anything serious, unless she hears somebody on the news saying that she's not serious, and she'll come on there and she'll try to be serious. But it's kind of like when they asked her about what would you do different than Joe Biden, and she goes, "Well, I can't think of anything." Well, of course you can't. All this plagiarizing they got going on in college now from these DEI candidates. Here's what you get if you hire these people. If somebody gets into college and say you got a subject you're supposed to learn about, you read about it, you read a bunch of stuff on it, and if you can't even write a paper and put what you read and how you feel about what you read in your own words, then you're a moron. So when somebody goes and plagiarizes because they're a DEI candidate or they're just anybody, it means you're an idiot. I mean, because that means you probably didn't read the work you're supposed to do and you just went through the book and copied those statements. So I say this about Kamala Harris because I've never heard her say anything on her that came out of her brain. She copied Donald Trump's, no tips. She copied that. So she never had her own thoughts on anything. That's why Joe Biden's not running the country. Kamala Harris isn't running the country because he's out to lunch and she's just stupid. When you need a DI candidate, they can't even they let into a college because a color or a race. There's certain race or certain color. They shouldn't be there because they technically weren't smart enough. They got there because of their race or color. Then they get there, they plagiarize, and they still and they don't really learn what they're supposed to learn. And then they get out of school, they get the degree that they shouldn't even have. They shouldn't even been there. Then they get a job like Kamala Harris, and then they eventually become the vice president. And you watch. I mean, God, if something would have happened to Joe Biden, I mean, I know he's calling a little bit of the shots, but not most of them. But that would be running our country. A woman who cackles and laughs and thinks everything's funny and has no intelligent thought of her own. Not on her own thoughts, not what Joe Biden was doing. Her own thoughts to change the country. I don't think I'd do anything different. I was the last one in the room there on all those things. Well, that tells you right there. She doesn't have one thought of her own. She should have said, "Well, this is what I want to do different. I want to try something." I mean, but she didn't. So when you sit there and you promote people through life on their color because of their color and their race, you get a country that's being ran. You get companies being ran. You got prosecutors running things that shouldn't be there because they're stupid and they're easily influenced to make the choices that are wrong because they can't think for themselves. So they listen to somebody else's thoughts and then they do it. And they don't even have the thought in their own brain to know if it's right or wrong, if what they're going to do is good for the country or bad for the country because they're stupid. And so that's what I got. The best way to combat and to have diversity and inclusion, people, is to read the Bible, to where you stop seeing color and you judge people on their accomplishments and their demeanor. And how if they're polite. I mean, and people that actually get through with the grades. There's a lot of people that are of color and of different races that graduate college that are there because they are smart. And they will get out and they will have good jobs. So this diversity and inclusion thing is a facade. I mean, there's lots of people of color in high positions in our country, and there has been for a long time, forever. So the best way, if you want the best person to get the job, you don't have to have some program that's special for inclusion and all that because we already have it. I never worked at any job in my life that was just all white kids, white people. It's possible. In this country, because we are diverse, we do have inclusion here. We are a diverse country, or we wouldn't have so many ethnic races in this country. I mean, that is what I'm trying to tell you people. So they're trying to push people through college, our government, that's gonna work for them, the Democrats, and that's how they get these puppets that somebody else is running, but they're not running themselves. They're not actually doing the job they were elected to do or hired to do because they're a DEI candidate. So they have other people doing it. That's why you're having all these protests on these campuses and all that, because you got a bunch of professors and all that are there that are, a lot of them, they plagiarized to get that degree because they didn't have enough thought in their own brain to do research on a subject and talk about it in their own words with their own thoughts, their own feelings. How hard is that to do? To read something that and give your opinion on it and describe what the people are talking about and what you're learning. It's very simple to do, people, especially if you're into what you're going to school to do. If you're into the degree you're trying to get, is it that really hard to learn something in your own words, to read something, learn something, and then talk about it in your own word, your own feelings, your own outlook on it? I guess for a lot of people it is. But DEI and inclusion comes with a Christian, somebody who doesn't just see just color. I mean, when you go to get a job, when you go to get trying to get a scholarship for a college, you should always go to the best person, regardless of color, because those are the people you want getting out of college with the degrees that they're supposed to get, that they're trying to get, and those are the ones that are going to get into companies and get into businesses and get into our government, and they have a thought of their own. They have a thought of their own. They have feelings of their own from what they've learned, but they're not going on there and talking something they read out of a book word for word. I mean, so inclusion and diversity only works if people don't see people as in a way to where they're just. I see people as a person. Until you show me something different, I think you're cool. But I mean, and now I know not everybody's like that, but that's where we have to start at. We have to stop letting kids get out of school that can't read or write at the grade they're supposed to be at. They can't do arithmetic at the grade that there's at senior grade level. That's where we start first, and then we make sure that the ones that want to go to college are getting there by not plagiarizing and by knowing the subjects that they learned in their own words and their own thought and their own feelings. If you don't have that, then we're going to have a country that's being ran. We're going to have a country full of companies and businesses and government officials that are just not really. They weren't really supposed to be there because they really weren't smart enough to be there without. I mean, the right way. The right way. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have companies that are all weird. You have them have these transgenders come on to these weird, freaky commercial with guys in dresses. That is what you get from this fake inclusion and diversity program that they've been trying to do. It's not real, people. These are people they put in those to be puppets for them. But they never really earned or deserved that degree. And that's one of the reasons why this country's failing. Because the people that are supposed to be getting these jobs are not the ones getting them. They're getting them because they're a certain color or a certain race. When was that ever cool at any time in life? In my life, anyway. I mean, I've seen people get promoted in my life because of their color. I have. I mean, does it mean they were a total bad worker? No, but they weren't really the best for the job. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like the border wall. Kamala Harris went on TV and whined about the $500 million it's going to cost to build that border wall. This is how stupid she is. But yet she spent $1.5 billion to try to get elected as president, and she failed because she's just a bad candidate. She's just not that intelligent. I mean, she's willing to spend $1.5 billion, and she's got to know in her mind that she's been thrown through. She just wasn't smart at all. I mean, not one thing that she said on the election was intelligent when she was trying to get elected this time. Not one thing. She had not one idea of her own. Everything was going fine to her because she's not that smart. So I mean, but the border wall they always whine about, it's going to cost $500 million. Well, the Democratic Party just blew $1.5 billion on a loser who was an obvious loser before she even ran, who got anointed into office to run for president. She got the vice presidency because she was of color. I mean, it's gotten so bad that they're putting the Democrats want people like Kamala Harris to run for our country, for the top leadership positions of our country. A dumb person, a person that gets on TV. I always thought she was drunk. I mean, Kamala, grab my Pamela. I mean, if I mean, come on, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's really quite funny, but it's not when this country's failing in so many ways, and a lot of it is from DEI and inclusion. And if people are Christians, if they believe in the Bible, you'll learn about diversity and inclusion in the Bible. And you don't have to read the Bible to know what's in there. It's all of it. It's in there. And you know it's in there because I know it's in there. And I haven't read too much of the Bible, but it's in there. That's what the Bible's about. It's about diversity, inclusion, loving our neighbors, loving our enemies, even if we can. That is where you learn diversity and inclusion from, not from some program that sits there and promotes people that are not smart enough to be in that position. You know what I'm saying? And we live in a world full of people and families in this country where there's 300 plus million Americans that have families. We don't have the luxury of fucking around, excuse my language, and getting these people into office because of their color or race. If they're not the best one for the position, if the best person for that position is a person of color, then give it to him. I want them to have it. I keep bringing him up all the time. Ben Carson, look, he's one of the best heart surgeons, one of the best surgeons of all time. You know, he got the job not because he's black, because he's smart. He thinks for himself. He's got his own feelings in his own mind, and that is how he saved kids. It's how he saved people in heart surgeries, because he actually is a self thinker. I mean, he's trying to solve a problem, not copy a problem and copy and what do I do here? We read the book. He's thinking about how to solve it, and you can't do that if you're thrown through life and given benefits and promotions and stuff like that only because of your color and race. That doesn't work, people. We're seeing how it's not working. We just saw it over 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Sex in the porno movies in the Capitol, cocaine at the fucking White House. I mean, I'm talking real stuff here, people. You know, there's a lot of lives right in this country, millions upon millions, hundreds of millions, riding. Our lives are riding on our government doing the right things, our colleges and institutions doing the right things, and by promoting and hiring the best people for the job, regardless of color. If I know everybody, if all the people for the best, say there's 100 positions open for a company, for something that's going to change our country, all 100 of them should be the best candidates. If all those candidates are, if all the best ones are white, then so be it. If all the best candidates for that position are black, then so be it. I just want the best person there for the job. I want the smartest person there for the job. I want the hardest working person there for the job. That is how you achieve inclusion and diversity. You can't do it by just trying to make some program and force it down somebody's throat and just give somebody a position because of that color. It'll never work out. It hasn't worked out. It won't work out. So that's what I got to say about this diversity and inclusion program. It's failed. It's failed miserably. And we have to go back to the days of the best person getting the job, regardless of color or race. That's how you succeed as a country, as an individual, as a family. I mean, it's always got to be the best when it comes to running our government, especially when it comes to running companies that employ hundreds of thousands of people. You don't want them failing because all these families rely on that. So do you want the best person running that company? Do you want the best person running that country, or do you want the person who fits the narrative? I want the smartest. I want the brightest. I want the hardest working. That's why we just voted in Donald Trump, people. That is why we voted in Donald Trump, because you see how hard he works. Excuse me. You see how hard he works. You see the dedication that he's given to this job. A man who's a billionaire that doesn't even need to do it. He's doing it out of love for country. They always like, oh, it's just going to benefit Donald Trump. I don't care how much it benefits Donald Trump as long as it benefits our country. It's kind of like them not wanting Elon Musk in there because of conflict of interest. No. It's not a conflict of interest because he's a real American. He wants people to succeed. If they succeed, he succeeds, we all succeed. That's what it's about, people. If we're failing at the top of our government, then everything below that starts failing. If we succeed at the top of our government, then everybody else succeeds. That's what's going on here. So let's stop hiring the right color and let's start hiring the right person. And I don't care what color it is, people, as long as they're the best one for the job. It's like that Kash Patel, or the guy that he wants for the new FBI director, Kash Patel. I don't care what color he is. I don't care what he's Middle Eastern. I don't care. He's a smart, intelligent, hardworking man, very intelligent, very American, and that's what I want for that job. And I don't care what color they are. So let's stop acting like everything's so racist anymore. It's not, people. It's only that way because our government continues, especially the Democratic Party, continues. They want it that way. They want it that way. They want us all confused and fighting, even over when it comes to hiring the best person for the job. I mean, it's like Joe Biden wanting to give people of color loans and stuff that white people can't get. I mean, what kind of racism is that? What kind of racism is that? We sit there and combated racism for all these hundreds of years to have a president in 2023, Joe Biden, try to give free money out to everybody because college students to get votes. Black people, I mean, loans that nobody else could get. I mean, illegal migrants coming over here and getting a free living. I mean, none of that's right. So that's why we're failing. That's one of the reasons why we're failing as a nation right now. And thank God for Donald Trump. He's going to bring back hard work, the best person for the job, people that are patriots that earned their place at the table, and wasn't given it because of their race or color. And if we can't get back to that, people, this country will fail. You have to have the best people for the job. In China, in India, and they're hiring for the best. They're not hiring somebody because they're from a certain province. They're hiring the best of the best because they're trying to get better than us. Well, we're not going to stay better than them if we continue to hire people because of their race or color. If they're the best person for the job, if they're the smartest, the hardest working, then you give it to them. If they're not, then don't worry about the color of the person that is the best for the job. Just hire them. And let's move this country forward instead of backwards. This is Scott in the Shot. I might be back again. You never know. Have a great day, people.